Akeem Olufemi Gbajabiamila. God bless you all.
You are onto the program House Ticket, your weekly legislative window into the activities of the House of Representatives. I am your regular anchor, Binta Magaji. The lawmakers are still on recess, but some critical committees of the House are working by engaging the executive arm of government on national issues such as the strike by resident doctors and the fiscal matters like the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper, as well as the upcoming 2022 national budget. This week's package therefore brings you a summary of the work by the Committee on Finance over the MTEF-FSP document, just as we shall review the feat achieved by the 9th National Assembly over the Petroleum Industry Bill, which was finally assented to by the President. Stay tuned for the full stories when we return from this short break.
We set our minds right, embrace each other in love and brotherhood. We will come through these troubling times. We will survive, we will recover, and then we will thrive. One nation under God, free, peaceful, and prosperous.
Thanks for being there. The House Committee on Finance is holding a 2-week-long interaction with ministries, departments, and agencies of government to scrutinize income and expenditure profiles from 2018 to 2021 in line with the objectives of the Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy Paper, MTEF-FSP. Some agencies have been on the hot seat as the committee is interested in the revenue generation of ministries, departments, and agencies of government, plus the lack of remittances, which has led to shortchanging the government of needed funds. The details in this first report on the program.
The interactive session by the Finance Committee to discuss the profile of the 2022-2024 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy Paper, MTEF and FSP, is to last from the 16th to 24th of August 2021. The House, in welcoming the August visitors, emphasized that part of its mandate is to ensure that the collective resources of the country is efficiently managed to serve public good.
Let no one be in doubt of our commitment as the 9th House of Representatives to live up to that responsibility by exercising the full extent of our authority as it relates to the appropriation process and oversight. As such, I ask all of the ministries, departments, agencies of government commit to working with us in a collaborative process in the best interest of our people.
About 83 relevant agencies are to be engaged in the interactions. Day one of the session saw the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, before the committee. She explained to lawmakers that about 4.9 trillion naira is to be borrowed as part of the 2022 budget proposal, soon to be submitted to the National Assembly. The lawmakers then took on various agencies of government present. Their inquiries touched on revenue profiles earned and projected, as well as other fiscal policies that are geared towards revamping the economy in the post-COVID-19 era.
Debt stock, as expected, will keep rising, and debt service would also keep increasing, as shown in the presentation. I just thought I should highlight that this is primarily where the debt stock is growing from, and also the debt service, which means we are also servicing and taking from the revenue, which has not grown as expected. I thought I should highlight that because there's a lot of concern about debt, but really, this is the source, and we can see the trend.
We have approved almost all your requests in terms of borrowing. And the DG budget just said that they have spent about 65% of the expenditure in terms of funding of the budget across the board. Except if you are doing select, because when we see at the budget, when we realize from the ministry is that 25% of the budget, even some ministry could not get 25 up to now. Then there is a problem here. So maybe you need to explain to us how these expenditures are.
There were questions for the CBN too.
So many of your intervention programs, at times different from government programs. It is alleged that you have become the government in a government. You have funded agric interventions, rice, and so many other things. But along the line, in paying back or in getting back your money, you have decided to be buying off the rice from the market, thereby reducing the volume available and increasing the price. Will you tell us these modalities and when you intend to inject what you are buying into the system?
It is not based on facts. Everything that we do in line with our mandate first, but in collaboration with respective agencies. As you may well know, even on the subject of today's meeting, which is the medium-term expenditure framework, the Ministry of Finance, the Budget Office, and the Debt Office would agree with me that we work together to produce these tables and these numbers. Well, we're not buying rice from anybody. What we're doing is that when we give out these loans, farmers can either pay back in cash or in what we call paddy rice, not even the finished rice itself. And what we have done is really to cut out the activities of a lot of middlemen who buy it from the farmers and hoard it. As you may know, a few months ago, and we're doing this across different crops.
Instead of us to invest in critical infrastructure that will enhance agricultural productivity, we're doing more like building castle on the air. And what I mean by that is I want to see a situation where the central bank through its intervention will take particular interest in developing the irrigation infrastructure across the country before rolling out some of the policies that we're coming out with today. So I think we need to take that back home, look at what the country really needs now. The attention given to the agricultural sector is a welcoming one, but let's sit with professionals. What do we really need in that sector?
The committee also wanted to know the reasons for inflation in food prices, but the CBN argued that it isn't peculiar to Nigeria, but a world phenomenon due to the impact of COVID-19. The CBN, however, added that for Nigeria, it has the added problem of insecurity, which is hindering food production by farmers. Still on CBN, the committee accused the bank of owing an outstanding surplus from 2010 to 2015, an allegation confirmed by the Accountant General's office.
We just look at your own account and decide what you want to, remit. And that has been outstanding for a long time. And we've also written for your digital account for 2016 up to 2020. CBN had not forwarded it to the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. So far from the earlier engagement we've had with you, and from 2010 to 2015, you are owing 801 billion, 181 million, 379,115 naira, 10 kobo to the Treasury as operating surplus that you've not paid back.
2 weeks was then given to the CBN to comply with the necessary laws and render to the committee appropriate documents and evidences. For the Nigerian Customs Services, it was questioned on revenue leakages through smuggling of petroleum products.
We have a porous border, very lengthy border and very porous. Secondly, we have, by the aids of NNPC, created so many filling stations right at the border. And Mr. Chairman, these filling stations get almost supply every day. And when they get this supply, they release this thing in the tank in the night, and in the morning you will find anything because it has been siphoned. And that is the reason why we now say any petrol station that is within 20 kilometers to the border should not be given petroleum products. Yet, many of them are still getting.
On price differentials being an issue also, the customs says Nigeria should think out of the box, as it has already proposed the establishment of PMS stations in the neighboring countries so that the products can be moved to those countries at the cost Nigeria sells its petroleum products.
We make more money, we have market, and by so doing, we'll completely diminish the anxiety or the penchant for smuggling. Because if a Beninois will get the fuel at the price we are getting, maybe with additional cost of transportation, which is minimal, there's no reason why he will wait for somebody to smuggle this thing and sell it to him at twice the price. We have made this proposal, we have made noise about it, nobody seems to listen. There's hardly anything we can do to completely stop the smuggling of fuel outside this country.
The Minister of Finance, who listened in on the interactions of the lawmakers with the various government agencies, was engaged on the way forward for funding of government projects and economic policies as a country.
So our problem is really that of revenue. We have a very significant revenue problem on the one hand, and on the other hand, we have incremental expenditure that needs to be curtailed. We have a very large staff emoluments that keeps growing. So our revenue is not growing at the same proportion at which our expenditure is growing. So we need to, as we try to grow revenue, we also need to curtail some expenditure. We need to just determine some category of expenditure that must be frozen for a period of time. We need to, like the chairman said earlier in his speech, just concentrate on completing ongoing projects rather than continuing to add new ones.
She therefore sought for collaboration from the legislature to create a framework to limit the kinds of expenditure by government. She also added that the Finance Act has helped in blocking leakages, thereby increasing revenue, although expenditure is increasing at a much faster rate, which is making the impact of revenue increase negligible.
Many thanks for still being there. In our first report on the program, we took a summary of the interactions between the lawmakers and the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, as well as various agencies of government over the Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy Paper, MTEF-FSP, for the period spanning 2022 to 2024. This is in preparation for the 2022 national budget. The interaction with the various agencies of government is still ongoing, and we'll bring you more details of the sittings in subsequent episodes. Moving on to our next report on the program, we'll take a look at the journey of the Petroleum Industry Bill in the 9th National Assembly from its introduction as an executive bill up to the time it scaled second reading. Let me quickly say that the passage of the bill by the 9th National Assembly is a landmark achievement owing to the fact that for about 20 years, efforts to make PIB a law has failed. Let us therefore recap the journey of the PIB.
The Petroleum Industry Bill started off in the legislature as a private member bill. However, over the years, it has been one of the legislations that suffered recurrent setbacks. At one point, it actually scaled passage by both houses but failed to receive presidential assent. With the coming of the 9th National Assembly in June 2019, a part of its commitment was to see to the passage of the PIB and its subsequent assent to become law. For a start, the PIB was placed amongst other legislation billed for reform as enumerated by the Speaker of the 9th House, lawmaker Femi Gbajabiamila.
Reforms of the oil and gas sector and the electricity and power sector that keep the heavy hand of government from undermining the proper operation of free markets must be encouraged. We recognize that some of these reforms will increase the living costs for many at a time when people are struggling to cover the costs of daily life. We will work with the executive to develop and implement measures to support people that need help and ensure that the most vulnerable among us can get through this interregnum with dignity.
With the coming in of the President Muhammadu Buhari administration in 2019, the PIB was reintroduced as an executive bill.
This bill combines in a single tone aspects of significant reforms to the laws governing the Nigerian petroleum industry that were previously set out in two distinct draft legislation, namely the Petroleum Industry Bill 2020 and the Petroleum Industry Fiscal Bill 2020.
The bill was renamed a Bill for an Act to provide for legal governance, regulatory and fiscal framework for the Nigerian petroleum industry, the development of host communities, and for related matters. The Speaker then assured Nigerians of an expeditious passage of the bill and that the 9th House of Representatives will do all it takes to achieve its success this time around. From then on, the journey of the bill began in the legislature, first with the first reading of the bill in September 2020. And in October same 2020, President Muhammadu Buhari at a joint session of the National Assembly during the 2021 National Budget presentation had expressed satisfaction at the zeal of the representatives to pass the Petroleum Industry Bill. He expressed hope that this time around, previous challenges militating against its passage by past assemblies will be addressed. The president said the resulting global economic recession, low oil prices, and heightened global economic uncertainties have had important implications for the nation's economy. The benefits of passing the PIB into law will therefore be an added advantage to the financial growth Nigeria seeks. Lawmakers also believe that boosting revenue generation through blocking of revenue leakages, including in the oil and gas sector, will play a vital role in financing of budgets and addressing deficits. The PIB, therefore, coming into effect as a law will help these issues to be taken seriously.
The PIB has taken care of a lot of things. All the leakages will block them. So by the time that one is done, we will have more revenue. And by the grace of God, once the agreement is signed between us and the investors, we'll be able to get more revenue and the leakages will reduce to minimum.
Most agencies spend their IGR rather than remitting it to the CRF. So we believe that strongly that is not good. It's not good for us.
During plenary of Tuesday, the 24th of November 2020, the bill was read a second time and passed after going through a debate on the general principles of the bill, which is segmented into 5 chapters, namely governance and institutions, administration, host communities development, petroleum industry fiscal framework, and miscellaneous provisions. The bill addresses the contending issue of host communities percentage from operating companies in the area with a 3% equity share allocation to the Niger Delta region and other oil-producing communities. The PIB has also created a frontier exploration fund of 30% from profit from oil, which is to cater for frontier exploration of oil in 7 areas, including Lake Chad, Benue Trough, Anambra Basin, Dahomey Basin, Lagos, and Gombe Basin. During plenary of Tuesday, the 24th of November 2020, the bill was read a second time and passed after going through a debate on the general principles. The House leader who led the debate on the PIB took time to enumerate some of the innovations in the bill, while reiterating the result of the 9th National Assembly to breaking the jinx that has led to the inability of the bill to survive passage in previous assemblies.
In this bill today, we have a new commitment, a new innovation, a new creation, where you have what we call the Upstream Regulatory Commission, under which you have some subsections, some institutional amendments that will help that sector to be regulated very well in consolidation of the previous responsibilities of the DPR.
Contributions to the bill touch on employment opportunities for Nigerians, socio-economic challenges of the South-South region, tasking international oil companies on community service in the region, amongst others.
Now there is going to be very clear-cut parameters and clear-cut definition of host communities and what is going to accrue to them.
The opportunities we had in the 80s, 90s, when we constructed a 5,000-kilometer pipeline in this country that transports petroleum products from the refineries and crude oil products, from the crude tanks to the refineries, and from refineries to depots. When, as at that time, Mr. Speaker, The area managers of NNPC who were managing the depots were like lords. If the PIB will cure it by way of the midstream, I'm for it.
Another contribution to the debate on the bill canvassed for a reasonable allocation to the Niger Delta region and other oil-producing communities.
2.5% of their previous year expenditure will be provided for the host community. In that 2.5%, it specifically stated that 75% is for development projects, while 20% is reserve fund, while only 5% will be used for the management of the trust fund.
Others spoke to the urgent need for a maximum utilization of the nation's petroleum resources in view of the fact that the world is going green in less than 20 years. The bill scaled second reading and was referred to the ad hoc committee on PIB, chaired by the chief whip of the House, lawmaker Muhammad Tahir Monguno.
Ayes have it.
The program is House Ticket, and we're still on the journey of the Petroleum Industry Bill in the legislature. Before the break, we took you through the introduction, first as well as second reading of the bill, and the setting up of an ad hoc committee to work on the bill. After the inauguration of the ad hoc committee on Wednesday, the 25th of November 2020, work on the bill at the committee level began in earnest. The ad hoc committee went around the Niger Delta region on an inspection tour and public enlightenment with stakeholders and the host communities on the general intent and provisions the bill offers for Nigeria, the oil industry, and oil-producing areas known as the host communities.
So it has created a host community.
The bill eventually got back to the floor of the House from the ad hoc committee and was presented for consideration by the whole House on Thursday, 1st July 2021, with a total of 5 chapters, 319 clauses, and 8 schedules. A 10% equity shares for host communities had been canvassed by stakeholders, but the House of Representatives adopted a 5% formula, while the Senate adopted a 3% formula.
12, 24, 42.
The Petroleum Industry Bill was eventually read a third time and passed on the floor of the House Tuesday, 6 July 2021. Thereafter, the Senate version of the bill and that of the House were harmonized as there were contending issues in the recommendations of both chambers. Thursday, 15th July 2021, when the Harmonization Committee report came back to the House for final adoption, the 3% equity share for host communities, which is the Senate version, was adopted. This was rejected by the opposition party of the House.
Please.
Eventually, the report was stepped down to give room for more consultation with stakeholders. However, when consideration resumed on the 16th July 2021, the 3% equity share for host communities was adopted. This was after a passionate appeal by the Speaker, Representative Femi Gbajabiamila.
This PIB will not suffer the same fate it has been suffering for the past 20 years. If there's any need in future, we can amend whatever there is to amend in future. But for now, it has been passed by the Senate. We have rules to follow, and it is those rules that we are following now.
And so the bill scaled third reading during a special plenary of Friday, 16th July 2021, a development frowned at by the opposition party.
This is the unfortunate situation we have found ourselves. It has never been this bad, where you can go ahead and consider a report where you do not have a quorum. So for us, whatever they are doing there is a nullity.
Nevertheless, the Petroleum Industry Bill, in an unprecedented development, received presidential assent and became an act on Monday, 16th August 2021, a development lauded by the Speaker of the Ninth House, local and international bodies such as OPEC, amongst others. The Speaker, in a recent press briefing, had described the PIB as a landmark achievement and victory for Nigerians. He commended the synergy between the executive and legislature as being key to ending the 2-decade-long journey of the bill. He added that with the passage of the bill into law, Nigeria's oil and gas industry will now see changes in terms of opportunities for investment, transparency in the sector. The bill, he said, will also bring Nigeria in tandem with international best practices as other countries have amended and enacted new legislations to catch up with emerging trends in the oil and gas industry. A 7-man steering committee has since been set up by the presidency to ensure a smooth and immediate implementation of the new Petroleum Industry Act. This is hoping you've been educated on the workings of the Legislature, House of Representatives, Federal Republic of Nigeria. You can watch House Ticket on our YouTube channel, Newage TV Network, and do send in your comments and questions on the workings of the House of Representatives through the mobile phone number showing on your screen. Here's hoping to hear from you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.